Hi everyone. You're going to have a wonderful, wonderful time for the next hour or so. We have David Clements here again. It's absolute joy, of course, to be with you, David. I think this is about our seventh conversation. I think
I
something like
think
that.
so, yeah, somewhere around there, yeah.
And they've just been so helpful and so uplifting for people. So I know this one's going to be similar. And I think most of you know David and his background. For those of you who don't, he was in very high level academia to advanced degrees from Oxford and Cambridge, PhD. And then you began remote viewing, I think, and that was working very successfully. And then a Galactic team started to contact you, and your life changed out of all recognition. So you're now a living energy systems expert. You're developing some beautiful regenerative technology to help humanity, but you also have a fabulous part of the website which offers live streams and meditations run by your galactic team, as I understand it, those meditations. And a lot of those are free and they are really, truly life changing for people. So, highly recommend that you join those. I'll put the link for those below. And yeah, you can become part of David's teaching. So, welcome, David. Absolute joy to have you here.
Thank you, Pam. Yeah, I've been looking forward to this for a while because I know that we talked about this just after or quite soon after we did the last interview. And yeah, I'm so glad to be back. I love chatting with you and I could see how much help and insight and hope it gives people who are listening in the comments. So thank you everyone who's listening, and I hope you get just as much out of this conversation as you have out of the others. So it's good to be here.
So we're going to be thoroughly cosmic today. So
Definitely.
it's interesting, Dave, because I remember very distinctly that it was on, I think you're talking about December the 4th last year being a very
Yes.
significant wave. And that was, you didn't know that, but that was a very important full moon in Gemini that day. And
Oh,
you
interesting.
obviously weren't aware of that, but that was a very powerful time. And then you talked about this powerful evolutionary wave that was coming
Mm,
in, peaking in late June and July, which
yes.
interested me enormously because the astrology is so rare, pretty much
Mm,
unique in this month, which doesn't mean to say it's all going to happen this month, but it's a kind of the beginning of another upstep in evolutionary terms. So, what you were
yes.
seeing in this wave of energy is what I was seeing astrologically. And I also listened to a brilliant geophysicist called Stephen Burns, and he was
Mm,
talking about exactly this peak time, late June, July.
mm,
And he was talking about how um, essentially we were having a more direct magnetic connection with the sun
mm,
because we were in a kind of a coronal high speed stream between
mm.
the earth and the sun, and also that the earth was becoming much more electrified. And so I don't know whether that language is what you were seeing in evolutionary terms or whether you can say more, because I know you said this was completely new energy coming in for humanity and the earth.
Yes, yes. Yeah, the the kind of the energetics that are being created and developed actually, because there's such a plethora of different types of energy. It's not just magnetic, it's many, many different levels. And that's a massive conversation in of itself, but I'll try to nutshell it enough. But essentially, so just a quick recap of what the teams have told me and passed to tell on in these interviews and so forth is that these membrane systems that are being created and have been set up and are still developing around the solar system, around planetary bodies, and also inside the planet. These membranes contain, how could I say? They contain levels of energetics which are a little bit like a birthing condition for new energetics to come in, because we have been used to, as third dimensional reality observers, whatever you want to call it, we've been used to a type of energetic system that is highly constrained, highly compressed, and behaves in a very solid-like fashion. So it's very limited in what it can do and how it can behave. And so when I think about conventional physics, when people talk about the laws of physics, these are very simplistic observations about the solidity and the limited behavior of how energy works in a highly compressed environment, which we have been in. But now, with everything changing fundamentally, all nature of fields are starting to change. Matter itself is changing. and its behavior is starting to change. And this is actually observed in mainstream physics. I remember back in the late 90s when I was doing my undergraduate degree in mathematical physics, they were starting to see that they always observed certain decay rates, of particles, like the muon decay rate was always constant. And then it began to change, and they didn't understand why. So that's been something that's been observed for a while. And so, because there's a lot of talk about muons and all sorts of other particles in different guises. But fundamentally, the way I see it and what the teams have given me is that we're so used to looking at it through the material lens,
Yeah.
and how does matter behave? Can we construct mathematical equations to map and sort of predict and so on and so forth? But what's really deeper underneath that? What's the literal living energetic magic, you might want to say, that sort of precedes all of that? And that's kind of what's coming to the surface, and on these other worlds with the beings that I connect with, their worlds are so enveloped with higher level, higher, what you might call multidimensional living energetics, or that could be a little bit of a whimsical phrase, but it's really an expression to say that the nature of energy and its behavior is now of a very overt, living, conscious, sort of fluid entity, if you like, or beingness, presence, whatever you want to call it. There's not really a good word to describe it. And so that really is what's starting to come to the forefront from us. We are moving out of this highly solid, rule-based, mechanistic world of living into a fluid, dynamic, living, thriving world. Because we've all been taught, it's even in physics, you can't get something for nothing. You can't create energy out of nothing, yada, 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 yada. So there's all these ideas of but those are all program conditions that get us as the observer to create that in the world and reinforce that compactification, reinforce that solidification. So we're actually, people think, oh, we just wait and watch the world unfold. Well, there is an unfolding, but what's really unfolding is us. Our consciousness is changing, the way we perceive is changing, and therefore the outer world is changing as well. And so, we talked about before we started recording the waves that were coming in, and there have been these very profound waves, coming through, as you said, through June. They peaked in sort of middle of June, beginning of July, and now they're starting to settle off. And they have been dredging up immense amounts of stuff from deep within people, all the stuff that lingers there that people have no idea that's even there. It's happened to me as well. I've had some real humdingers to deal with over these past couple of months. Nobody, I don't think
Nobody
anybody gets a
escapes.
free
No.
pass. Yeah. So, and one of the things that, as a little message, if you don't mind, sorry to carry this sort of paragraph in it a little bit longer, but I think it's a very good message for people to know that, a lot of stuff that you have no familiarity with, no context of, or no known relationship with, will just shoot to the surface, and suddenly it will throw you off, and you'll feel like you're wobbling all over the place, and you don't know what's going on. And a lot of this stuff has been so hidden, so stuffed down, that you had no idea that it even existed inside your conscious field system. And now these waves are coming to dredge that out, to release it from you so that you can expand. It's like taking out the anchors that keep you in this highly compressed, highly compact, solidified, limited world of rule-based energetics. But that's all part of the huge change that we're going through. And yes, Stefan is right that the sun itself, the relationship with the sun, is absolutely changing, because as the energies raise, and the multidimensional nature of our interconnectivity starts to open up, new gateways start to open and expand for us. And suddenly the interconnectivity, not just with the sun, but with the core of the earth, and with the sun acting as a point in a huge interconnective stellar system and galactic system, it's massive. And suddenly all that is starting to come online. And now, just like streaming energy, now the linkage of river, and now suddenly this little dam is opening up, and suddenly you're getting all that beautiful, highly, intelligent living liquid light that's coming through, and you're bathing in it. Now you're having such greater connectivity with, like I said, stellar systems beyond our sun, including our sun, the galactic core, and so on. It's really, really huge. It's massive.
Because this is an evolutionary leap, not only for Earth, but for the whole galaxy, I've heard you say.
Yes, exactly. Yes, something I can feel my teams here, they're quite excited to share something. They're saying what's happening now is they're saying think bigger than your galaxy. They're saying this is a multi-galactic universal unfolding, and it's bringing together every well, what they're showing me is this whole interconnected web of light streams that are enhancing and going all the way out. They're saying, think of a tree with all of its root systems and all of the branches and leaves, and suddenly the core of the tree suddenly lights up, and streams of light now go through all the fibers of the tree through the root system. They're working their way to the very tips of the roots everywhere. They're saying that's what it's like on a universal scale. That's what's happening. And so they're saying this is immense. They're saying there are civilizations out there performing immense work in different areas, different galaxies. This is huge. And you know, even though the planetary ascension that we're going through is a massive, massive thing, because a full planetary ascension is like this has never taken place on this planet before. It's a first.
Wow.
As far as I'm aware from my teams, they're saying yes, that's correct. But this whole thing is, you know, when you look at it on a universal scale, what's happening, this whole upliftment is colossal. And, you know, what the role that Earth is playing in this is massive. And I believe it's partly to do with, and this reminds me of some of, you know, the ancient masters that came here. They came here to seed such light into the darkest places, because to do so, it's like imagine going down to the bottom of the ocean. You set off this immense light, and that light would work its way through every water molecule, spread out from the deepest place, and work its way back up to the surface. And so, in a way, that's kind of what they did. They started the seeding work, and it obviously took place long before they came as well. So it's a step-by-step system. But when they came in, it's the most recalled and renowned point at which very advanced beings came in to seed, supersede light in, to break the system down from within. Because remember, one way to look at this is part of the bind that humanity's got itself into is being involved in an environmental energetic system that is so confined and ratcheted down, where it becomes so limited you can't do anything other than just barely operate. And that's what it had become. And so intelligent light had to be seeded into the very fundamentals of the entire system, the material makeup, matter itself, to change it, recode it, reform it so that it releases and lets go. And suddenly the living fluidity of the real nature of energy comes back, and the thriving can come back again. So it's quite there's a number of ways you can see it, but that's a nice way of looking at it. And I feel that's what's happened. And so the system per se, darkness, whatever you want to call it, never had a chance, because, you know, living intelligence is the fundamental towards everything, you know, and what we call darkness is just a perception. And it was said to me that it's when you look at something and it appears to have a diminished level of love intelligence within it, from your perceptive vision, it appears dim or dark. That is what darkness appears as. But as soon as it becomes full of love intelligence, it luminesces, it glows. Suddenly now the holographic forms that you are now looking at are now filled with living light intelligence. And now they're organized and harmonized by that intelligence, because it's in it, it's actively working inside it, and now it's doing its magic. And that's how, and so it becomes luminescent. So that becomes light. So really it is that, you know, darkness per se is not a real thing. It's a perception of the lack of love intelligence. And that comes back to the game of free will, because to have the game of free will, you need this sort of perceptive contrast of lack and then to be full of, so that you have this spectrum of all things in between. So yeah, there's a lot of different threads you could go on there, but I don't want to hog it too much, because I'm sure you've got
No, no,
lots of
it's
questions.
absolutely, it's all absolutely fascinating. So clearly we are in an incredibly accelerated period of humanity's
Yes,
evolution,
yes.
and galaxies and beyond.
Mm,
And you've actually said that we are hyper accelerating now. Humanity is
yes,
hyper accelerating. And I
yes.
know there's no such thing as linear time, so this is quite a tricky question to ask, and our evolution will go on to infinity forever and ever and ever. Are we kind of in a sort of a bubble period where it is particularly intense and then it will start to level off a little bit? Or will it keep
Yeah.
at this intensity for, forever and ever and keep upping? Or is this a particularly concentrated period?
Yeah, I can feel the teams laughing. They're saying that's really up to you. In the sense that they're saying that you can be as enriched or as still as you wish to be. They're saying, but part of this unfolding, these massive waves are coming through as a planned purposefulness.
Yeah.
And they're saying it's a Palladian being, I believe, here at the moment. And I also believe the Syrians are here as well. They're saying they would like to come forward to share some perspective. So, okay, my high self, please go ahead, and the teams, love light teams that are here. So they're saying the Earth is undergoing tremendous change, which they're saying they're smiling and saying you already know that, of course. But they'd like to discuss some of the changes on a deeper level. And so what is happening? They're saying I just touched on it a little bit with what I was saying about the luminescence of matter and the filling of love intelligence. Um, they're saying they would like to take it a step further because they're saying your world has essentially, in a manner of speaking, and they're saying they're hesitant to say these words, but imprisoned in a way, not quite in the way that we would understand it, but they're saying, think of a bubble that appeared to be so separated and so disconnected from everything outside. They're saying that's really what they mean. So they're saying they don't want people to misunderstand, what it is they're saying, but it has created such a sense of separation with okay, sorry, could you just slow that one down a little bit? I missed that word. They're saying they're using a type of expression I'm not used to, so I'm finding it hard to find the word to describe it. But essentially, it's like they're saying the game of humanity. They're saying, let's call it that. The environment of humanity, whatever you want to call it. They're saying what's happened is in that game, um, they're saying it's a little bit like they're showing this analogy. Imagine a group of children on a playground and they get taken into the school and the doors get locked and then they just that's where they stay and they get used to just being in there all the time and they forget that there's a world outside of them. And they're saying what's happened to humanity is that we have forgotten that there is an entire plethora of multidimensional levels of existence all around us, all outside of us in perception terms, that we've forgotten and have had very little instance of that connectivity or the sensitivity or the feeling of that. And they're saying it's created this condition of ever greater compacting, and separation that had to be turned around, they're saying, because it was going into a very, very, unpleasant place, they're saying. And they're saying the initiation of this turnaround actually took place a long time ago. This isn't recent. But a lot of the things that we are noticing are quite recent as to many of the up levelings. So they're saying the turnaround actually was they're talking thousands of years ago, where things were turned around. They're saying your history is a lot more ancient than your books are saying. Of course, we of course know that. But yes, sorry, please, I didn't mean to interrupt you like that. Please continue. They're saying, yes, there have been many civilizations on this planet, many of them very advanced. Many had left this world and developed technologies that they could go elsewhere with. Remnants of which they're saying many have found in different places, including Antarctica, they're saying. So this, they're saying they encourage people to look into this more because you'll find some very interesting things. But they're saying more to the point, what's happening is the core of humanity and the core of their being, the heart intelligence, that is where the veils are really lifting. And that is where people are starting to feel all sorts of weird goings on, you know, odd imbalances, discomforts, all sorts of strange things going on, they're saying. And they're saying this is expected in their eyes. This is part of the process. They're saying you see humanity, and they're saying that with such a lot of love and reverence. They're saying that um, you're going through a massive transformation, which is not a transformation of just being more intellectual. And they're saying, of course, you know this. They're saying you're undergoing a transformation where you are literally returning to the core of you have this profound chance to go so deep into the core of who you are, to be a living powerful emanation of source intelligent light within human form. They're saying this is the grand experiment of the human form right now. And they're saying it is immensely exciting for them. They're saying they're seeing things switch on in humanity on a subatomic, molecular DNA level that are just profound. And they're saying this involves what they will call light science that's beyond what we know right now, but we will become accustomed to it and understand later. But they're saying, but suffice to say now, they're saying that so many things are coming into play that are going to be immensely enriching to the human condition beyond what you can imagine right now. It's really, really profound. And they're saying here, literally, each of your Earth days brings something so profound and new in itself. It said you're he's saying it's a male, and he's saying yeah, humanity is of such interest to a delightful interest to just many, many immense races because they can see what's happening as well. Um, and he's saying I was just about to leave now as there's a female who's coming forward now. I think it's okay. So this is an Arcturian female. Okay. Okay, so my high self and the Arcturian female, please go ahead with what you'd like to say. Um, so that's interesting. So she's holding out her hand, and she's showing me something energetically on her hand. So she's saying this is a representation of, or an image of the heart center, and she's saying something is changing. She just wants me to be still for a second so I can see. Okay, please go ahead and show me. Okay, wow. Let me try and describe this to you. Okay, have you finished? Would you like me to describe that now? Yeah, she's nodding. Okay. What a really delightful being. Very, very sweet and gentle, but incredibly, incredibly advanced. So she held out her hand and just showed me a sort of energetic image of the heart's energetic system, what it is right now. And she was saying what it's transforming into, and it just went like this and transformed into this immense I'm not sure if I can find the words to describe it. She's saying that the the opportunity for humanity to be such a direct emanator of source intelligence. Do I have that correct? Is that what you mean? She's nodding, but there's a little caveat to it. Um, okay, so she okay. She's saying, imagine even okay, I see what she's saying now. So she's saying the heart center is not only the core of our living intelligence, it's the core of our perceptivity. And she's saying the galactic connectivity that we're getting, this is where it's developing from. And she's saying that when you reach a certain level, you will literally feel the living consciousness of stellar systems, galactic systems right here. You'll have perceptivity of them right here. They're saying let me see if I can get this right. The it's like, okay, so let me say this and you can correct me if I've got the translation wrong. It's like the living light library of the human system, the human form, with that level of source connectivity with your higher self embedded in the human form so much is they're saying is an experiment that is really just incredibly profound because they're saying the experiential again, it's very difficult because they're showing me very multidimensional concepts, and I'm finding it a bit difficult to find a word to translate that into to explain it. Okay, so if you can help me, my higher self, find the right words for this. So, okay, my higher self saying, picture an ocean, and you are in the ocean. Um, and now all of a sudden, you become aware that you are the body of the ocean as well. And that ocean is filled with living library energetics of consciousness and understanding and experience that spans not just this world, but entire galaxies. They're saying that is where you need to be looking. That's how big it is. They're saying this is still developing, but this is what is slowly coming online for each of us as we wish it to be. They're saying the availability, because of the genetic makeup of the human form from many master races, because of the Earth herself, her lineage, her connectivity, her whole framework in this whole thing, the whole thing together in symbiosis is creating what they're saying is like a light recipe that is like no other. It really is. It's really profound. And so they're saying they would really love people to play and ponder with the idea of just having such expansivity of awareness inside your being, unlike you have never imagined before. They're saying that's where you have the opportunity to go. And that's these waves coming through, they're saying are clearing the bedrock. They're clearing the dust, the debris, the mud that is getting in the way of that coming into better fruition. And saying it's all part of this pulsing that comes through. It purges, dredges, pushes out, settles you down. You get a settling time so that space can now be filled with more advanced light energetics. Then you get another wave through that pushes more dredge out the way. And they're saying it's clearing the human form so that we have such a and they're sort of smiling a bit. They say we know how that terminology gets used a lot in different ways, but they want to make it very clear. They're saying, imagine around you a nested series of fields all around you and ever expanding back towards source. They're saying those are the expressions of you in ever expanding form back to source. They're saying this whole process is allowing you and helping you to connect more deeply, deeply, deeply with each of that almost sort of fractalized field system so that you have such a profound and deep access to that you are literally just emanating that in human form. And they're saying the ability to be a bridge to such high level living energetics in a sort of third, fourth, and fifth dimensional setting. They're saying it's never been done like this before. This is such a new thing. And they're saying the conditions that humanity are creating by doing this work is opening up even more doors as we go along that were not expected to be open, that even more expansivity and new projects can be enacted because of it. They're saying it's such fun with you humans. It's never they're saying in your human phrase, it's never a dull day. So
They're having more fun up there than sometimes we are
yeah,
having.
you know, right.
But I
Yeah,
know they've said, we are way ahead of expectation and
yeah,
accelerating. So it's fantastic. So it
yes.
sounds like, we are going to become more and more luminous as beings as well, shedding that density, which is wonderful. And I've also, David, I mean, that's all beautiful what you've shared. Just, how lucky are we to be here at this time? It's remarkable. And you've
Yes.
also said that the whole fabric of space time is changing.
Yes.
And of course,
Yes.
that's inner as well as outer. But
Yes.
can you expand on that a little? I mean, what exactly did you mean by that? And is are the orbits of the planets changing and their relationship to each other, or their relationship to the stars? And again, being aware this is all inner and just
Yes.
being a mirror reflection in outer. But I'd love to understand that better.
Sure.
Obviously, as an astrologer.
Sure thing. Well, let's start here. So, mainstream physics will tell you that, there's space-time and matter or particles sit in that, and they study the behavior of that, and that basically overarches physics as we know it. What the teams were saying to me was that the very nature and energetic configuration, if you like, of space and time itself, and what we perceive to be time, and they're saying there's a lot of new understanding that's going to come not just about our perception of linear time, but multidimensional time flows as well. Flows that go back on themselves, flows that do all sorts of things. They're saying time is more dynamic than we understand it to be. But to bring space into the fold, they're saying that they've spoken before about these, how to describe them. They're like sort of energetic nodes that connect each other in this huge, beautiful connected system that acts like a bit of a fluid. It can flex, it can move, it can bend. But each of those nodes has there's still a lot I'm learning as well, but there's a lot of energetic function to each of those nodes, and one of which is experiential memory. And so, I think I've spoken before about when people can go to an area which is, say, war torn, or where there's been some very damaging energetics there, but can still feel like something is going on, like something is replaying again and again in the spatial area. And what they were saying to me was that these nodes actually store experiential imprints like memory. And so one of the things that's being changed in the spatial grid system is the memory of old traumatic events that just keep getting stuck and replaying and replaying and replaying and don't break free and heal. That's happening, but also the whole system is changing because they're saying one of the constraints on matter itself is the very nature of how the spatial system has been made to be. And we change that with our conscious perception. They're saying that's part of our relationship with our environment. And they're saying part of the condition of how we have really confined ourselves down into this sort of third dimensional kind of highly constricted, highly solidified, is that's had an impact on the spatial system itself. And so that is being undone as well. So they're saying it's not just an area with which to fill things with, it's an active part of the very living holographic system that makes up what we perceive as our outer reality. And it's layered, they're saying as well. And one of the other things that's happening is they're saying, if you remember the bubble they talked about, as if humanity had been contained within a disconnected bubble or a perceptive prison, if you like, in a seemingly separate to everything else. We're in this little bubble. We have no idea what's going on around us. We're not even aware there's anything else outside this bubble kind of thing. And they're saying the clearing and transformation of the spatial grid systems is very much part and parcel of the dissolving of that perception of separation, that bubble of we're in here, nothing else exists. And as that dissolves away, we realize, oh my goodness, there's everything is interconnected and we were never truly separate. And so, yeah, do you have anything you'd like to add to that, my higher self or my Arcturian family? Yes, they would like to add. They're saying there is a synergy. They're saying imagine this. They're saying around galaxies, and they've spoken about this before, there are certain membranes that exist so that energy operates slightly different within each galaxy. So it has its own environmental playground system, if you like, different, it's like, one school does this, another school does that, it's kind of a little bit like that. But they were describing each galaxy is within its own membrane. Each solar system has its own membrane. And within the solar system, there are other membranes as well. And within a membrane, the physics or the energy behavior can be vastly different inside this one compared to inside another one. It's like when you blow bubbles and you see bubbles, it's like just fields of membranes. And within each one of those, the nature of how energy moves and behaves inside that membrane is very different or can be very different from another. Just to give it a visual feel to it, it's not quite like that when you blow bubbles, it's just they're bubbles. But in the membrane context, that's how it works. And this is what's changing. Now, the beautiful thing about this is they were saying that you can only get access to membranes or change them if you're at an eighth dimensional level or higher. So lower beings can't mess around with these. It's not something that they can interfere with. They don't have access to them. It's one of the beautiful ways that the whole universal system is set up. You only get access to the good stuff if you can show you can attain the higher levels and you can behave centeredly and properly. If you misbehave, you only get access to very limited amounts and what have you. And they're saying that is effectively what is going on, that the spatial system within the solar system and within the planet itself and within the other planetary bodies as well is being slowly morphed and changed to bring it more in alignment so that it can synergize with and essentially connect with the flows and the streams that are coming through the sun, through its core, through the galactic core, and the network of stellar systems that the sun itself is connected with as well. And so, yeah, that's what they're saying is happening. They're saying it's an immense they're saying the analogy of the root system is a good one because it gives people more of a visual of all these different roots threading into different stars, different stellar systems, and these light flows feed through to them and emanate through the star, expanding into the solar system, radiating the life forms in that solar system with that particular quality of light information or light intelligence. So it's kind of hope that gives a better flavor of what's going on. Did that answer your question? So I
And it
kind of
sounds
went on a
like
little bit of a
astrology is going to change out of all recognition. So no pressure there then.
right, yeah.
It'll be very
Yes.
going forward.
It's
Much, much more recognizing the consciousness of each of the planets as well, and interacting
yes.
with them as elements of consciousness from within us, and also mirrored out as well.
It's just very quickly, sorry to interrupt there, but the Arcturian lady is here again, or the Arcturian female. She's saying yes, and it's we are going to start to reevaluate our understanding of what planetary systems are and
Wow.
what they do as a function, what they are as a design, and the many things that we're not yet aware of, she's saying, because there is so much going on that
Wow.
humanity, she's smiling, humanity thinks it has a handle on, but it really doesn't. It's really exciting. She's saying there's so much excitement in store for us and the discoveries that are going to be made. Yeah, it's very cool.
Wow, that's beautiful. But yeah, yeah. So, anyway, look forward to all that. Yeah, that sounds incredible. And I've also heard you say, David, that you visited the sun recently, and I'd love to ask you about that, your experience of doing that.
Yeah, it's in actually there's a couple of times in the actual meditations themselves
Yeah.
that and it's very interesting because when we do these meditations, the teams of and the collective higher selves with everybody doing it seem very keen for people to directly experience things, not just get information, because information is nice, but it's not the same as really having an experience of something. And so a couple of times, perhaps even more than that, they've asked us to go through the boundary of what we perceive to be the sun into the interior to sit and feel what's in the interior, what it really feels like. And it's not, I mean, I studied stellar structure when I was in academia. So the conventional view of stellar structure and the interior of stars. And yeah, I can tell you that the perception that I was given many times by going inside is nothing like what stellar structure would have everyone believe is inside. And inside the interior, and there is a core inside there, just like very similar to the Earth, a living intelligent core. And in the interior, it felt more like, do you know those plasma balls that you get, you can put your fingers on and all the plasma streams meet your fingers? It was more like that than it is. As we think of it, it's just a big ball of just, fusion reactions going on, nuclear reactions. It wasn't like that at all. In fact, it was cool in the interior. It wasn't hot as we perceive it to be.
Mm.
And the Arcturian female's back again. It's interesting. She's kind of doing this for a second. She's saying, um, that she's saying there's so much that has been hidden from you, so much that you have been misguided with in terms of your understanding of what things are. She's saying initially it might seem like all your knowledge is going to turn on its head, because of the nature of things, of how it's going to be revealed. But she's saying it's going treated as such a fun, almost like a child beginning to learn from the beginning how things really are, kind of thing. But anyway, sorry, did you have anything to say about the interior of the sun there? No, she's saying she just wanted to include that. Okay. So yeah, again, back to my experiences, at the very core, there was one meditation in particular where you go through the core and go through the stream, the multidimensional stream gateway to the galactic core. And that was quite an incredible experience doing that. I don't remember off the top of my head which number that was. I believe that was one of the free meditations we
Yeah,
do. So
yeah,
anybody listening can go and do that.
pretty sure it was. Yeah,
But yes, the and this is one of the big misnomers I love to clear up is as a former mainstream physicist, now a living energetic physicist, as I think of myself in what I do, I would say that what science has really taught us is solidification, separation, and isolation, and pick things into their component bits, put them back, and try and map them, and therefore you understand what you're talking about. But no, no, not at all. Living systems are interconnected living systems that are so beyond everything. Having been a scientist, I've walked in the same halls as some very famous people. I've had conversations with them about all sorts of things. And for my take on things, science is going to undergo a big renaissance. It really is. It has to. There's no other way. A lot of things, religious perspectives, all perspectives are going to undergo a massive renaissance because it's been predicated on the idea of separation, control, isolation, a whole number of different factors, none of which are actually real in the bedrock of reality as it really is the way I see it. And we're going to be introduced to living energetic systems in a far more advanced way, and technologies that they're not technologies as we know them. They're living energy field systems
yeah.
that operate in the most advanced ways, and it's going to be appear to be so different. I mean, people have seen and taken pictures of light ships, massive light formations in the sky that are incredible, and these are indicative of these advanced races that come in with these what you can only describe in a very loose way as light intelligent ships, and it really is extraordinary. And again, just coming back to your question about the sun again, it had the similar quality inside there. It was a living, intelligent, complex of field systems that was very different from what we would think of as being this, or what we are taught to be as the sun is. So I've had to do a lot of unlearning in order
Yeah, I
to,
bet. Yeah, chuck all the
yeah,
textbooks away and start again.
yeah,
Absolutely. So, everything is becoming more fluid, more malleable, more morphing, and more conscious. So we're going to recognize consciousness in everything. In the vehicles, they're going to be operated
yes,
by frequency.
yes,
It's
yes,
going to be just an extraordinary multidimensional world that we're moving into, and it's starting now, isn't it? Because people are starting to
yes.
have those experiences.
Yes, I mean, the observation of orbs, there's many words to describe them, plasma balls, things, a phenomenon going on in the sky. It's really increasing. A lot more people that didn't notice it before are now starting to see it.
Yeah.
And yes, oh boy, there's just and I've seen some other people who have worked in different areas, some of them quite close to shall we say deep deep projects, so to speak, and it's incredible because I remember, I don't want to say too much information, but I'll just gloss it over a little bit. But I asked one person who had contact with some people who were working in these programs, and he said to them, "So what's the nature of what you've got behind there? How far are you advanced behind the scenes?" And this contact of his replied, "Well, Star Trek?" He said, "Yeah, yeah." I said, "Well, what we have would make that look very silly." And yeah, so, and
Wow.
that was direct from somebody who was a solid guy. I mean, it's that, I don't want to mention his name because he hasn't given me permission to, so I won't say it. He has passed away now, so, but still, he hasn't, I didn't get direct permission, so I won't say, but I will. I think it's okay to say that to give people a flavor without revealing too much information. So, but it just gives you an idea of things that are going on behind the scenes. So, it's yeah, the future is going to be very, very interesting. That's for
And
sure.
it's arriving right now. And these waves are going to keep increasing, aren't they, David, all the way through this year? They keep on
Yes.
coming.
Yes, the next big one, they're saying there is some sort of what they consider microwaves. That's a microwaves and
Yeah.
micro. Yes, let's clear that one up. Or smaller waves, that's a better way. They're laughing. And they're saying, but there's another big one, crescendo coming in August, around August the 19th, they're saying
Okay.
is going
Yeah.
to be, I don't know if that date is
It's
significant to you, but
eclipse
that's,
month. It's eclipse month. So yeah, so
okay.
the 12th is a total solar eclipse, and obviously the 19th is
Interesting.
a week later. But yeah,
Ah,
big astrology through August. That's really interesting. So
okay.
another big evolutionary wave to carry us through. Wow.
Yes, they're saying they would like to say this. This one coming through is even more refined, as they've spoken of before. They're expecting them to become more refined as they go forward. And they're saying they want to qualify what they mean by refined. And what that means is it's becoming more the light. Uh, okay, they're just trying to use my vocabulary to try and put the info together. But they're saying that the quality of the living light information that is coming through, the seeding of these little packets of light that are going to unfold when they go into you and literally release light, they'll call it light functionality or light intent that's going to uplift, expand, and evolve as it goes into you. They're saying the refinement of them is so fine because the finer it goes, the more it's bridging you to the more fine, sort of high dimensional living energetics of things. And they're saying it gets more deeply absorbed in those who are ready to absorb in that particular wave set. But they're saying, don't worry, no one misses out, because as another group is then ready to move on and then be receptive to this, they get the opportunity to do the same as well. So they're saying it is happening in different ways for different groups of humanity. But as they're saying, when you look at it as a whole, everybody is moving. You know,
Yeah.
it's like a bus. You've got people sitting all along the seats of the bus, but they're all going to pass through this place of high energy, so to speak. And they're saying it's all to do with where you are in your receptivity to energy, where you are in your path, your puzzle piece solving. There's a whole mix of different things. But ultimately, it comes down to resonance, where you are resonant at your frequency, what you can resonate with and therefore receive and exchange with. That's part of the process as well. And they're saying they want to be very clear to people. Don't get upset if you feel like you're behind. They're saying there is no such thing. They're saying even that analogy we made before is it generates a false perception of oh, these guys are over here, you're behind here, you're catching up. No, they're saying that you must understand that a lot of people purposefully chose to incarnate into some very deep waters in order to see light, get in that muck, see light at that level to break the system apart from within those levels. So they're saying, look at it like that. You're not behind, you're not ahead. You're just working on a different aspect of the project. So they're saying that's the way to look at it. Because they're saying it's something they notice a lot in humanity. Humanity has a deep tendency to keep comparing themselves to one another. Oh my goodness, I feel really bad and insecure now because you're doing this and I'm not doing it. They're saying that's not the way to look at it at all. Not at all. It's like, think of everyone who has come from very advanced places. You all chose different parts of the field to work on. Some of you went right into the troughs to muck out all the, excuse my French, the crap in there. Some of you went over to a more savory part to do work over there or help over here. It's all different things like that. So they're saying try to see things like that and try to shed the idea of that you are less than or behind or anything like that, because that's not the way it is, they're saying. But
Yeah.
they're saying for the waves coming through, they're getting sequentially more refined, and they stay within the body of the earth as well. So the earth is literally charging with these multidimensional light energetics. It's filling, expanding, expanding. And it's reaching into the atmosphere, into the oceans, to everywhere. Everything is being touched by this living intelligent light streams that are coming through.
So that has a cleansing function as well on the land and in the waters, in the seas and
Yes, they're saying cleansing and transmutational because it's some systems, rather than being broken down and literally nulled out or removed, are actually being transformed back into a better state that they used to have. So
wow.
it's a shade, it's like a spectrum of lots, I mean, lots of different functions that it does. Um, but as an interesting question here, if you're interested, we could ask the teams, yeah, how that's all progressing on a scale of how
Yeah, for
they
sure.
were
Love
expecting
to.
it to
Yeah.
be. So they're actually saying we're glad you asked that question. They're saying that things are proceeding. Okay, so I didn't catch that word. It's smiling. They're saying it's not quite a word to describe it in your English language, but they'll try to give the sensation so that I can then bridge it through. Okay. Yeah, okay, so that's interesting. Uh, so what they're showing me is they're saying, if you remember in their conversation before, they spoke of many doorways opening that weren't expected to open, and they weren't seeing as being a possibility to open on those timelines when they were looking before. So remember, when these beings look at things, they look at potential timelines, what's going on now, what the most probable timelines are, and all the possible other streams that could be taken as well, because it's all about our choices. And they're saying that so many doors that will enable just profound light experiences are opening. Some are just opening a little bit right now. They're just wedging open a little bit, but they were slammed shut, they're saying before. They were not opening.
Mm.
And what they mean by doors, they're saying this is in human terms metaphorical. What it really means is access to higher energetics, because they're saying this one spoke, they mean me, yes, they mean me. So when I spoke before about you can only get access to things if you reach a certain level, they're saying to carry that forward, as we expand, as we gain deeper access to more refined light, we then get access to the higher functionality of that living light. That's the door opening, essentially. And so that's what they mean by these, it's not like a door that just opens up in front of you like we think of a door. They're saying it's you're gaining access to things that you could not get access to before, and at a rate and in a way that is literally unprecedented. They're saying it's really incredible, and they're saying that the people, humanity, the way humanity has been working on this and doing this so diligently through some of the most difficult circumstances. They're saying, and they do understand that, they see this very clearly. They're just in awe of what humanity has managed to do through such density, and to keep going and to come out the other side with better access, higher access, more deeper access to things that they never had access before. And they're saying a lot of this stuff that's coming through is not normally present unless the world is incredibly advanced. We're sort of talking sort of fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, and
Wow.
high dimensional, existences. They're saying those are actually trickling through to you now because of the access that we're creating. They're saying, we hope that gives you a better understanding of what you're doing. And they're saying the more you do that, the more you're going to contrast the crud that's coming out as well. So they're saying, bear that in mind when you look out into the outer world. And they're saying this is a very, very important message for humanity. When you look what's going on in the world, they're saying, please do not get attached or focused on, oh my God, it's all falling to pieces. Everything's going down the drain pan. It
Absolutely.
isn't. They're saying quite the opposite. When you clean your house out, you see the rubbish leave as it exits the door, and you're going to think, oh my God, my house is a mess. Everything's going down the drain. It's all going upside down. They're saying, no, it isn't. They're saying, if you could see as they see the levels of light on this planet now compared to the small pockets of residual, they're calling them dark holographic aspects. Just it's holographic forms with the absence of love intelligence in them. If you could see the contrast between how much light is there compared to the small residual pockets, you think, oh my goodness, we're nearly there. And they're saying you'd be right to see that because that is exactly what is happening.
It
So,
means, David, that the collapse of the old world is going to be even more heightened and obvious and accelerated. Yes, because the light is
yes.
coming in so fast.
Yes, and they're saying that also falls into human perception because they said one of the difficult things they're saying for humanity is the majority of humanity's perception has been so attuned to the normal densified goings on and functions of the old world. And that is one of the things that many people are struggling with, which they're not necessarily fully aware of, because that it's they're saying when you settle down and really ask your higher self to see things as they really are and what you're struggling with, you begin to see that quite a significant amount of that is the resistance to let go of the old way of seeing things. You want the new energies, but it's still holding on to the old ways of looking at things. And they're saying that is where a lot of tension is being created in a lot of people right now. So they're saying they're making it as an offering. They're saying they offer this information to help you better understand and become calmer, more settled, more serene in your own consciousness when you become unsettled, because it is just old artifacts, old ways of seeing things. Because sometimes we see things in ways that we really don't want to see any different. We really want to see it like this, we can get quite staunch about it, that's kind of humanity, I guess, in a way, or as it has been. And I can say I found this in my life as well from my early goings on, through many years. I hit some real slammers of walls, and in the end, after I had my hissy fits and all sorts of language and everything of going through some very difficult times, I'd settle down and my high self would come in and say, now do you understand? Now do you see? And I said, right, I understand now. Sorry. It's like, but they don't mean it like that. They were saying, you have to just settle down, let all the emotions, fall off, let them come out, then settle. Then you have the pond stills and you can see everything clearly. Now you can see what was really going on. And that's the difficult part for people when you're going through the motions. I find it's good practice, just to allow it, let it be, enjoy the fact that this is coming out. Don't embroil in it, don't engage in it, do not identify with it. Just let yourself settle, go out for a walk, get in nature, just do something, just say, yep, it's there, it's doing its thing. And that in itself can be a bit of a practiced art because we're so used to directly wham engaging with things and a lot of people I used to do quite a bit of that when I was younger, and it didn't help at all. As people know, it does is it takes you deeper and deeper and deeper into that spiral. It takes you a little bit longer to come out when it uncoils. And so this is the thing that I would recommend to people from my own experience, is that whenever this stuff comes up, just allow yourself to feel the yuck. It is offloading, and the more you can do that, the more graceful because it's like a practiced art. The more you practice doing that, it will become more natural, more, what you do normally. And this stuff will just come off you so quickly. And it will feel like, oh yeah, that used to take weeks of bothering and everything to go through. Now it's like 2 minutes, it's out and it's gone. And it's a big thing for humanity to learn to do, to just be the peaceful observer of yourself, what you feel, what you are feeling, and what is going on right now.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So be in stillness, listen to your meditations because they're exquisite and life changing. And also, a simple phrases I use are things like, show me how to embody more light today. Show me how to embody more light, or I'm welcoming in the new light codes into all of myself for my awakening. Phrases like that to welcome it in as
And
opposed to
also,
resist.
oh, sorry, did I interrupt
No,
you?
no, no, not at all. No.
Sorry, they just came in there, so I didn't want to overrun you were speaking. Sorry. They were saying, but they would add to that. They would say more so the feeling, because what they like to encourage people to do is really get to know your sensorial energetic self. They're saying there are some areas where, and I can say for myself included, having been very heady in my previous times, they're saying they are noticing quite big pockets of the developing community or conscious developing community are getting held up with mental grip. still, trying to do everything mentally. They're saying what they would like to offer as an encouragement is try to feel the sensation more. Even if you don't feel much at the moment, the more you encourage the perception or sensorial nature of your feeling of energy, the more that you can actually transform. Because they're saying part of the difficulty is the human mind has been conditioned to grip. It's been conditioned to, and they're saying the mind's version of understanding, and it's been said before, is control, whereas the heart's version of understanding is compassion, which is a complete release and allowing of flow and seeing everything as it is. In one way of speaking it, as I would say. And so there's just saying for those people who are struggling, just ask yourself, are you doing this more mentally than you should, and do you just need to relax, come down into your heart center and just be more playful? And they're saying it's not about mentally making yourself come out of your mind and go down to your heart. They're saying it's about really relaxing the mind, being really joyful and playful with your mind. Don't bash your mind, they're saying. Just be playful with it because it's how it's been trained to operate. But it will learn a better way. And the more you can just be playful, be kiddish, goof around, do something silly, get in that energy, then you naturally just settle into your heart center. You don't make yourself go there, you settle in there, quite naturally just by doing that. Then you get the feeling of your higher self much better, the flow of the energies. And they're saying in a way, you're kind of moving from a paradigm where a lot of this work was done mentally because that was the availability at the time. And now you're moving, you're making that jump over to more being into the heart intelligence center. And so the mind will become an instrument of the heart rather than the governor of things. So that's another aspect they're saying. That's the Arcturian lady who's back again saying that as well. So sorry, they just wanted to drop, they
No,
come
it's
in and they kind
wonderful. No, absolutely
of.
beautiful. Yeah, it's also precious and valuable. But a phrase I often think of when I'm dropping into that state is just imagine that you're butter melting in the sun.
That's a
Have that,
great.
just complete surrender, bliss, stillness, that it's beautiful. So I'd love to ask you, and it's a slightly unfair question, David, because you're not an astrologer, but next year on the 2nd of August 2027, we have the longest eclipse of the century. It's 6 minutes, 22 seconds, and it's going to be at its darkest point over the Egyptian pyramids, which feels hey presto, super powerful. And the astrology is very powerful. That whole chart is very powerful. So, is there anything you can tell us about the potency of that eclipse? Because it feels like a real peak point in our evolution. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Yeah. So my higher self, my Arcturian love light family, source intelligence, would you like to offer any information on this? So the Arcturians and the Syrians are coming forward on this, which is kind of interesting because I believe the Syrians had quite an involvement in the development of that
Yes.
culture as well. So that doesn't surprise me, I guess, in a way. Okay, so my higher self and my love light family, please go ahead. So we would like to, they're saying we would like to offer this as this is a Syrian male who's here. He's saying, coming back to the idea of energy streams and alignments and when things open up and when things flow, um, it's he's showing me an image of something. It's a little bit like certain points, certain gateways will open and allow flows to flow through and allow energies to work in certain ways. He's saying this is one such time, and it's a very powerful time. He's saying that he can't go into specific details, he's saying, but he can say that their ancient civilizations were very purposefully setting up these ancient structures to function in a very particular way.
Mm.
And they have an interconnection, and they operate with, okay, he's sort of doing this a little bit. Okay. He's saying part of the reason is because there's active ongoings right now, which he can't be too specific on, but he would like to give the audience or people listening a little bit of a flavor of to your question. So he's saying that imagine the earth much like your own body, where your body has a lot of vessels, blood vessels, other things, your whole nervous system, a lot of things interconnecting, flowing, opening, just a very, very dynamic system of exchange. And he's saying that your planet is returning to this, and a lot of those ancient systems are switching back on, as the earth cleanses and clears a lot of those nodal points, particularly where a lot of those artifacts are built. Very purposefully, things are switching back on. And they're going to be done in stages because they're saying humanity and the earth itself is not ready for a full switch on, so to speak. It has to be done in stages for acclimation to take place. And they're saying it's very important. And he's saying it's much like these waves throughout the entire process. You get a surge and then you get acclimation, surge, acclimation, surge, acclimation. That's how it mostly operates. And he's saying it's the same thing with this one. So something is going to be taking place. He's showing me something, but he doesn't want me to talk about that. Okay. So, but suffice to say that you are very correct, he's saying, in where your question was going. And but he's saying more can be revealed after the event when it takes place. So yeah, it seems like there's quite a quite an interesting going on around that, which they want to be a little bit, sparse with some of the information, but sometimes they do. If something is an ongoing thing that they want to make sure is all works
Yeah,
beautifully, then they
understand.
won't necessarily say everything. So yeah, so he's backing away now. He just, has said thank you for that opportunity.
Yeah.
So yeah, I hope that somewhat helps you on
Yeah, it's
those two.
beautiful. There's going to be a huge amount of human interest in that because it's, it really is
Yeah,
enormously
yes.
powerful. So, yeah,
Yeah, I was going to say I understand that because I'm quite keen on knowing more about that stuff myself. But often they'll tell me, "Oh, that's enough for the moment" as well. So it's like, and I think it's kind of necessary as well because not only for the ongoing operation aspect, but also because of the fact that um, part of the beauty that the teams that I work with often do as the way they assist is they love for people to have their own experience. They often mention about, knowing knowledge is one thing, but actually living the energy of something and getting your direct sensorial perception of what just took place can often be very different. And so that's one thing I find they're often very keen on letting people do, which I think is a very beautiful and very good way of doing it, because we're all sometimes too keen about wanting to run on about giving lots of information, but I think the experience of things is the real key.
yeah. And again, it's learning to feel it through the body rather than just learn it through the mind. It's being in the moment
Yes.
in the body, isn't it? That's really important. And that's why
Yes.
it's really important to keep your nervous system calm, a lot of
Yes.
grounding,
Yes.
breath work, candle gazing, meditation, anything, hug a tree, be in nature, anything that grounds your nervous system, because there's just so much
Yes.
happening that's changing so rapidly that we haven't lived at this pace of change before. I think it's important to say.
If you don't mind, yeah, my higher self and actually I feel the core intelligence within me. I mean, the source intelligence and my our high selves are the same, but it's the stepping down expression. So sometimes I use them a bit interchangeably. But that what's coming through is saying that yes, humanity has been taught and has learned to overuse the mind in ways the mind was never meant to be used. So yes, you are supposed to have intellectual function. You were supposed to have intuitive function, but those are supposed to be instruments or extensions of the heart intelligences, which is where we're going back to now. And as the way I see it in my own experience, that's been one of the biggest difficulties in moving through my own path, in making that transition from being very intellectual and very head-centered where my whole world was intellectual to being, of the heart center and my mind being an extension of it. It wasn't, for my path, it wasn't easy. But they're saying, but I forgot the joyful, playful bit because, I was always being too serious about things. And but they after a while that message sank in and they were saying that that's the key. You're not being silly by being playful. You're being more of your true nature when you're being playful. Because the true nature of source intelligence is playful. It's inquisitive. It's wonderful. It's delightful. It's all those beautiful things. Those aren't whimsical things. Those are natural, natural qualities of that energy. And you can quite easily return to them just by enveloping yourself in them and doing that, you know. Yeah, sorry, that's just sorry to add
No,
that.
it's really, you know, it's just been a beautiful conversation. I mean, you shared so richly with us, David, and given us so much inspiration and excitement about, you know, the kind of future we can start to look forward to imminently. I mean, we're absolutely in it now. So, in this
Yeah.
crucible of change. So, you know, God bless you for all that. Is there anything else you'd like to leave us with before we close?
Yeah, so my higher self, my source intelligence, my Arcturian love light family, my Palladian love light family, or my Syrian love light family. Is there anything that you would like to add here? I know that you mentioned my higher self that you'd like to add a message when we before we started recording. Yes, so it's the core intelligence within me. Um, it's a message of hope, and but it's not hope as we would define it in human terms. It's not a oh my, I hope this works out. It's saying, rest assured, dear humanity, that everything is working and everything is flowing. Um, and as has been said, far better than was expected 10, even 20, or 30 of your years ago. You are making transformative progress in ways that were not expected to be, as was just said many decades ago. And as been said in this conversation, many, many gateways and openings are opening daily for you by what you are doing, the energy that you have inside you, and that you allow to emanate from you. And so here is the message: relax, humanity. This is already well in hand. What it is asked of you is to simply relax into your being. Enjoy your day, enjoy your family, enjoy yourself, your life. Celebrate yourself, celebrate what you do. Let go of the harshness, let go of all judgment. There is nothing to judge. You have done and are doing exceptional work. No matter how you feel about yourself, whether you feel you're not doing enough, whether you feel exhausted, simply being the expression that you are, emanating the living light intelligence within you, is exactly what you came here to do. And yes, there have been clearing patches, and there are clearing patches, and there will be perhaps more to clear depending on where your path is leading. But the most important thing, and the reason for the clearing, is so that you can emanate more, so that you can ground more of the real you into your human form and experience. And this, in its nature, is of joy, it is of beauty, it is of sweetness, of kindness, it is of flow. Do not be scared or ashamed to be those qualities, for they will effortlessly take you into your core. They will effortlessly remind you of who you really are. For as it has been said, this is not an intellectual exercise, dear souls. You are relaxing back into who you really are, the real you. And in doing so, you are learning to let go of every intellectual, shall it be said, facade or identity, or however you choose to call it. That which you hold on to, that is not in fact you. You see, dear souls, the closer you become to yourself, the more you let go. And when you have completely let go, you will have returned to your true self. It is that simple, sweet ones. And so when you find yourself struggling, ask yourself this question: how and why are you holding on? And what is it that you are holding on to? And what is it that you fear to lose by letting go of it? Because it is not you. And so, sweet ones, with this message, remember simplicity, playfulness, joy, sweetness, and relaxation. It is asked of you to practice and delight in these, for these simple measures will help you accelerate far faster than you can possibly imagine. It really is that simple, sweet ones. You are all so dearly loved. There are immense civilizations that are looking after many facets of this unfolding project. You are in good hands. You are in the perfect hands of your higher self in every moment. And in those times when you feel that your higher self is not there, those are simply the times when you have a lot of, shall we say, human stuff coming through, passing out, and your higher self is taking care of you and assisting this purging with you. But as it passes out, it saturates your ability to perceive and feel your higher self. So it gives you the illusionary perception that your higher self is not there, is not helping you. But this is not true, sweet ones. It is not true. The opposite is in fact true. Your higher self is more deeply with you, more deeply assisting. But like being in a room that you were once in silence and can perceive the slightest sound, is now filled full of people shouting at the top of their voices, screaming for your attention as they pass through out the door. That is the analogy of what it is to have human stuff come up and out and leave. But did your higher self leave you? No. It was within you, within that room all along, helping everything pass from one door out the other with as much grace and as ease as you will allow. And that is another key. Allowance, sweet ones. Allow your process to unfold and be aware where your beloved minds may engage and try to engage and sort things out. There is nothing to sort out, sweet ones. Peacefully allow and peacefully observe. And with this message today, it is wished for you the sweetest love flow that you will allow yourself to connect with inside your center, in relaxation, in joy and peace. You are love intelligence. You always have been, and you always will be. And so it is.
That was really beautiful, David. No, you've just given us so much to feel wonderful about, hopeful, excited, inspired. It was really beautiful. That was jam packed of golden
I
nuggets.
know. It just kept coming. It's like,
It was extraordinary. It was just, you couldn't have got any more in. I mean, it was just absolutely jam packed with wisdom, higher, obviously much higher galactic and
yeah.
ancient wisdom. And it was really beautiful. So I can't be more grateful for your time and the opportunity to talk to you again, because these conversations are always so precious for me personally and for everybody listening. I hope you've really, really loved it as much as I have in conversation with David. So
Yeah, thank you very much, Pam. And yeah, thank you everyone who's listening. And again, the teams often congratulate everyone on the work they're doing because and that's not for empty reason or just nice, I guess what you're just being nice, so to speak.
light.
Yes, it is really meant because I really get the feeling of just how in awe they are. Because again, it's so easy as a human being to look up at high mighty beings saying, wow, look at them, they're so cool. And oh, what have we got down here? Sometimes it's easy to see it that way, but the way they see it the opposite. They look at us in utter reverence, because to come down here and do what we do in the mix of what we have to do it in takes an immense amount of high level being to do that. And I'm not kidding when I say that. I really mean that. The souls that have come here were selected because of their very, very deep and profound experience in being able to ascend under difficult circumstances, in difficult energetics and environments, having learned that and have that in you. So if you are here in human form on this planet, you are one of those qualified people or beings. So, it wasn't just a case of, oh yeah, yeah, jump in there, just help yourselves. No, that aspect is being handled very carefully, because the right souls in the right place at the right time have to be there to do what they're here to do. So just remember that when you're not feeling so good about yourself, or just remind yourself that you selected yourself, and the teams that are part of the process of who comes to incarnate here, recognize the light that you have and agreed in council that, yes, you should go here and you should do this. So just remember that, that's the light that you have inside you, and that's why you are here. So definitely.
Yeah, it's beautiful, and thank you for that. And it is a courageous lifetime, I sense,
Oh,
a truly
yes.
courageous lifetime of being the bridge builders to a very different level of consciousness.
Yes.
And when we can see it in that context, it's enormously exciting. And I think just occasionally, as you know, you've shared with us tonight, we need to catch our breath and pat ourselves on the back as we look down the
Right.
mountain and
Yeah.
realize how far
Yeah.
we've come up the mountain. And it's been a
Yeah.
hard trek, and there's more to go, but we can relax more knowing that we're beyond that tipping point now. That's what I feel energetically. It's like a snowball rolling down a hill now. It's getting
Well,
easier.
oh, sorry. So you were still
No, no,
speaking.
it's just getting easier because there seems to be such a momentum behind this new consciousness that it feels easier now than it did a year or two ago. Much easier, I feel.
Yes, and I feel all along, because they've always reminded me, David, just relax, just let go, it's fine. In times when I've gotten hickledy pickledy about things that were going on for me, and it's so true. And I feel that the actual tipping point of this actually took place quite some time ago,
Mm.
but it's like it was that boing, and we sort of tipped the balances, and we were working our way up. And I think it really is important for people to remind themselves, please, just if there's one human bit of advice I could, turn off your TV, stop watching the news,
Yeah,
or,
yeah.
well, you call it the news, I call it something else, but it's like,
Get rid of your television. That's a really good idea.
yes. I mean, I have to say, just give it a week, turn off all the social media you might, I mean, I'm not just suggesting you can do what you like, but I found when you just give that stuff a break, you'll notice such a significant change in your peace, your balance, everything will start to settle down. You'll realize the actual agitation that was being whipped up inside you without you realizing it, just by doing that stuff, just simple little things like that. I think that was the message they were trying to say. Get on with enjoying your life. That you're not in amongst this serious stuff where everything's about to go wrong. No, just put that to one side. That's not your concern. You know, just be joy, emanate it, just enrich, fill the world with that. That's how you're going to really move forward even faster. And at the same time, you're going to be really happy doing it. So, definitely.
Because the more love and joy we feel, the more we're going to magnetize that in, and the more we do it in
Absolutely. Yeah.
numbers, it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. So, no, I'm a great proponent for that. Even have T-shirts saying that, as yes, you may know. So, so, David, total joy to share with you. And yeah, I'm sure people will absolutely love this and just find it so valuable. It's just such grounded advice as well as being very high level advice. And yeah, I
Yeah.
just really honor the time with you. And
Likewise. Thank you very much. Yeah, definitely. I'd love, and I get so many comments from people saying, when you two get together, it was just, you talk about the most brilliant things. And I really, because, I think of you as such a wonderful friend and an amazing soul, the stuff that you've gone out and done and the work that you do. And yeah, we tend to conjure up a lot of cool topics and have some great energy creators. So absolutely, it's the same for me with you as well.
Bliss. Well, pure joy, pure joy. So thank you, David, from the bottom of my heart, and thank you everybody who's been listening. And just hope you absolutely love this. And remember, we're rocking it. We're
Oh,
rocking it.
yes. Yeah, lots of love to everyone. Hope you got
Loads of love.
lots out
God
of
bless.
it.
Bye.